recap, well, 66 to 30, that's the final count of yesterday's vote to repeal the Iraq AUMFs of 2002 and 1991, a bipartisan success years in the making. That was a very good moment here on the floor yesterday, a sign that senators on both sides want to see bipartisanship continue in this chamber. We can see it again if members work together on issues that Americans care about, like lowering costs, preserving America's competitiveness, and in yesterday's case, stopping endless wars in the Middle East. It's my hope Mr. President, it is my hope that the AUMF repeal can be a model, a blueprint for how the Senate operates in the coming years. It's not easy, but it's very much possible, and I thank my Republican colleagues, particularly Senator Young, for their cooperation. AUMF repeal was the conclusion of a successful, busy work period, 5-week work period that we just completed in the Senate. A busy and successful 5-week work period on and off the floor. We confirmed another 14 highly qualified judicial nominees to lifetime appointments to the bench, 13 district and 1 circuit court judge, bringing our total to 119 new judges. 119 new judges. That makes us proud under President Biden. I also want to recognize our committee chairs for their good work over the past month or so, holding a number. There was hearing after hearing, day after day on important issues that Americans care about, like rail safety, the health of our banks, the rights of working Americans, the president's budget, and more. The Senate will hit the ground running when we return from the April state work period by taking up the much-needed Fire Grants and Safety Act. It's my hope that yesterday's 96-0 vote in favor of moving forward portends for swift action, argues very strongly against dilatory tactics. Let's do the same thing we did on AUMF. We're willing to allow some amendments, but we've got to move forward. This is something that is supported broadly, as shown by the 96-0 vote. Just this week, 29 fire and emergency service groups warned Congress that with summer around the corner, local fire departments of all kinds are woefully understaffed, underfunded, and under-equipped to meet their obligations to keep people safe. So, when we return, the Senate must move quickly to pass fire grants legislation without unnecessary delays to this overwhelmingly bipartisan legislation. Now, the senator from Alabama is holding up military nominations. The senator from Alabama continues his hold on more than 180 now promotions, military promotions, blatantly ignoring many warnings of the harm he is causing to our national security. It's reckless. It's just reckless. Yesterday, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin warned that blocking these promotions, quote, creates a ripple effect through the force that makes us far less ready than we need to be. Do you hear that, Senator from Alabama? The Secretary of Defense is saying that what you do makes us far less ready than we need to be at a time when China and Iran and Russia are all causing all kinds of security problems and threats. But Secretary Austin also emphasized another point, very important one. The senator's stonewalling is having consequences, bad consequences, heart-wrenching consequences for our military families. By blocking these promotions, the senator from Alabama is blocking pay raises for these officers and their families. By blocking these promotions, the senator from Alabama is blocking military kids from starting new schools, setting them back in their education. When a member of the military serves, their family serves too. Does the senator from Alabama understand the disruption and chaos he is causing to military families? These are people serving us. They're not political. They've worked hard. They've done a good job. They got a promotion. A promotion means moving, changes of venue, changes of school. It means a career path, how long you've been at one rank and then to another. The senator from Alabama is playing havoc with so many military families who are non-political, who have served our country well, who thought they were ready for promotion until this cruel act of the senator from Alabama stopped them. These military families have done nothing to deserve the disrespect and disdain shown by the senator from Alabama. It's insulting to our service members that one senator, just one, is holding up what has long been a routine and nonpartisan process. Again, I urge my colleague from Alabama to think this through and stand down. We understand he has passion on the issue. We disagree with it vehemently, so do most Americans. But passion on the issue is not an excuse for causing havoc in the military in terms of force and in terms of the lives of the families. And I would again plead with my Republican colleagues, whether it's public or private, to go to the senator of Alabama and dissuade him from his folly. On the budget and debt ceiling, and show us your plan. House Republicans are starting to see why. They themselves are starting to see why their attempts to threaten default to secure spending cuts was a terrible idea from the start. It's not only reckless, it's not only dangerous, it turns out they can't even follow through on it. This week, the chairman of the House Financial Services Committee admitted that he doesn't even see a path to an agreement for lifting the debt ceiling. And at least 16 Republicans have never voted to raise the debt ceiling at all, even under President Trump. That's true. But the problem here isn't that there isn't a path. Of course there's a path. It's staring Republicans in the face. The solution is what we Democrats have said from the start. Instead of threatening default, instead of brinksmanship, Republicans should work with us on a clean extension of the debt ceiling. We did it 3 times under Donald Trump. We've already done it under President Biden, and we should do it again. If Republicans want to push a separate discussion on the budget, that's their prerogative. And in fact, it has been done many times by both parties in the past. But the Republicans would be reckless to take the full faith and credit of the United States hostage in order to force a conversation on the budget, particularly when there's an alternative, tried and true path that has been used before. Separate debt ceiling and raising the ability of us to pay our debts and discussions on the budget, on taxes and on spending, which we always do. It's tying the two together that's reckless. And so it's becoming clearer and clearer to Republicans themselves, even those in the House, that the only legitimate path forward is this. Let's have a bipartisan and clean extension of the debt ceiling, as we've done many times before, and then Republicans can push a separate discussion on the budget. The American people have listened to us. A month and a half ago, I started telling the Republican leader, show us your plan. President Biden, Hakeem Jeffries, and many others have joined in that call. And it's resonating from one end of America to the other. Of course, you can't sit down and discuss something if you don't have a plan. Leader McCarthy just says, let's meet, but what are they going to do? Discuss the weather, the rearrangement of the furniture? Come on. Do it the right way. You're beginning to see what we have said all along, that the best way to do this is no hostage-taking, no brinksmanship on the debt ceiling, and a strong, avid, and passionate discussion on the spending issues, one separate from the other. The House Republicans cannot show us their plan, and as we said, they're going to have I predicted 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, it's going to be very hard for them to get 218 votes on any plan. So, come on. Look in the mirror, see what's going on, and do it the right way. Senator McCarthy, today is March 30th. It's been long enough. You still haven't come up with a single specific cut that makes any difference in debt that you want to do. Show us your plan. Drop the brinksmanship. Join Democrats on a clean extension of the debt ceiling. And finally, on H.R. 1, the House is expected today to vote on Republicans' partisan, unserious, and so-called energy package that they call H.R. 1. So first, once again, I want to make it clear, H.R. 1 is dead on arrival in the Senate. Not because of politics, but because it's so ridiculous and has been drawn up by a bunch of pro-oil senators of no regard for anything else. No Democrat has been consulted, so obviously the Republicans knew that in the House when they passed it. But they want to seem to go back, in H.R. 1, they go back to the MAGA supporters back home, the big oil companies, the oil wildcatters in so many of the oil states, who don't want to pay any taxes, who don't want anything to do with moving us forward as the climate gets worse and worse. The Senate is not going to waste our time on a bill that sets America back decades in our transition to clean energy. All it takes is a brief glance at H.R. 1 to realize it's just a giveaway to big oil. House Republicans' so-called energy package just guts important safeguards, environmental safeguards on fossil fuel projects. It would lock America into expensive, erratic, and dirty energy sources while setting us back more than a decade on our decision to move forward on clean energy, which this nation fully supports. Transmission, of course, is hugely important to increasing access on clean energy, but the Republican plan hardly even mentions it. So, again, the way to do this, Republicans in the House, is in a bipartisan way. We have a Republican House, we have a Democratic Senate. No party is going to be able to jam its way through without consulting the other side. That's true on debt ceiling, that's true on budget, and it's certainly true on H.R. 1. There are Republicans in the House and Democrats in the House. There are Republicans in the Senate and Democrats in the Senate who want to sit down and do a serious energy package. We need to do it. Let's stop this brinksmanship. Let's stop this political game playing. Let's stop this throwing bones to the MAGA hard right, which represents maybe 5% of America. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's get down to work and get something done on energy and on so many other issues. I yield the floor. I yield the floor. Mr.
Let the chair do their thing.